So like last night I was shooting, it was 32 degrees.
So do they dress you like do they give you the things that you need to be able to do that?
Personally, nobody dresses me because nobody understands how much I need to put on to be able to cope with how, because don't I'm Australian, right? So I grew up in Sydney or Queensland, and if it got below 70, you're heading
Yeah.
north to get in more sun, right? And then same with California. In Los Angeles, if it got below 70, I start putting on thermals.
Love it. You haven't shopped in a long time. You have clothes everywhere. Are you a clothes person? Like, do you feel like I want to wear these things and go out places, or do you not care?
Oh no, I love it. I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
I've been, so I grew up in a family that were very fashion conscious, right? Um, and so my mom had all of her outfits tailored by really big designers. My dad got all of his suits tailored, shoes, everything, right? So I grew up in this world of fashion in a way, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then I started modeling when I was young, and that kind of brought me into that side of the business as well. And I started designing my own clothes at one point, and doing all that kind of stuff as well. So, there's a big part of me that really enjoys that stuff creatively. And kind of, I think I have it in my system. You know what I mean? I don't think you can grow up the way that I did and not have it in your system.
Yeah.
So, I did a show called Nip Tuck for, 8 years. And, great thing about that character, one of the great things about that character was his clothes. I mean, I got to, I designed a lot of my own suits there, and we tailored everything in specific ways. And, but I went home with a lot of those suits, right? Because,
Oh,
you
nice.
know what I mean? I went with those, plus I shot myself. Like I'm not cautious. You know what I mean? I'm not kind of, I don't,
Um,
I'm not like, I don't do it all the time, but when I go and I go hard. If that makes sense. It's like, and so I've definitely, my closets are full and don't,
well, it's kind of a shame for them to sit there like
Oh,
that.
I
Like, it's a
know.
bummer.
No, I have some suits. I just found 4 suits that I got in Scotland 2 years ago. Right before the pandemic, 2019, I took the family over to, we went to England, London, and Northern England, and then Scotland. And there's a store in Scotland, which is just one of my favorite stores. It's a suit store. And I bought 4 suits, and then came back. The pandemic happened, and I just literally found them the other day. And there's 4 suits. And they've got tags on them. They've kind of been cut properly, and yeah. So I
You'll
love I
you'll
love
wear them.
dressing up. You know what I mean? I kind of was thinking, should I dress up just to use my clothes? Should I dress up just to go to work? But I'm like, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the morning. It just doesn't feel the same.
No. But
And then
also, you're not going to be
car.
wearing them. They're going to be
Well, I'm
like
gonna
hung
get.
up.
I'll be in a car and nobody. You know what I mean? It's just. I'll be doing it just for myself, and maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but I can't quite get myself to understand the sense of it.
Yeah. I think that I hear what you're saying. I don't think you want to wear them there to get ruined and then not even be
That's
worn. You're
a
going to have to
thing
put them
too, yeah.
away anyway. You have to wear whatever they have out for you.
No,
But
and I
maybe
started
like,
wearing a couple of things like random. Like I was like, just wear that, and I was like, and they got really disappointed because it got kind of, you know, destroyed somehow. I was like, oh, that's a bummer that I did
yeah,
that.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay, so tell me, so you're in New York right now. So well, I think when we last talked, you were technically bi-coastal, right? Like you have a place in California too? Or am I
Mm-hmm.
making this up?
No,
Yes?
you're right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So interestingly, I just went back to the place in California for the first time since I left in 2019.
First time?
Yep, Thanksgiving. And so, because with the pandemic, we stayed on this coast. The thing about it was we thought we were going back to work all the time,
Yeah.
right? So from July 4th, around about July 4th, we were kind of we were going to go back. And then it kept getting pushed 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks, whatever it was. And then by that time, it's like, oh, we're just here. Let's just,
Wow.
finish it out, and we'll drive back up. You know what I mean? At that point, we were kind of down in Florida or something. And, but what a gift. I mean, I got to spend it with my wife, my daughter, and 3 dogs, you know.
So are they
So,
all? So they're all here with you in New York now?
yeah,
Now, is your daughter in college? I think I remember you saying she was starting college. Is that right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. She's in college. Although we lost one of the dogs, so we got two of the dogs, and very sad, a beautiful
I'm
girl.
sorry.
Yeah, so we've got 2 of the dogs left, but she had this. It was kind of funny because she did have this kind of extraordinary last year. Like all of these places that we went to were so kind of pro dogs, and we just and also just not being in the pandemic, you weren't kind of doing much except for hanging out at home and
Hmm.
what else. So I walked the dogs 3 times
Yeah.
a day. You know what I mean?
I know. My dog started to get so used to getting walked all the time that like
Yeah,
she got in this habit of being like twice a day for these long walks. Like, hello,
yeah,
why aren't you
yeah,
walking me now? But it's like, okay,
yeah,
that
yeah.
was good for a while, but we can't continue that many long walks every day.
Yeah, and long ones too, right? Like
Yes,
I'd be fine if I went for 2 hours. I was
totally.
love it. So, and then they're like, I know when we came back, our dogs were so fit. And then after a couple of months, I'm like, I'm getting a little.
Yeah,
Had to
yeah.
put them on a diet because they just weren't getting those. Like I did a minimum of 2 2-hour hikes per day.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you. I don't know if I did 2.5 hour, but that was the thing to do. So, all right. So tell me about going back to California. How did it feel?
It was wild because the house, we've had some people live in it and staying up, but not in kind of our section of the house. And it was like a time warp. It was like this. It was like my slippers were just sitting there, and all that stuff that you have, all your personal stuff by the side of the bed, whatever that is for everybody. Your cup of water or whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
It was all just sitting there, like because when I left, it was July 2019, right? Yeah, July 2019, and we were for sure coming back in 2000. Sorry, in Thanksgiving. I was for sure about it. I'll be back. Everybody, I'll be back. I'll be back. Don't anymore of that. I'll see you soon. Because I just thought that was going to happen. But then Thanksgiving came around. I was so exhausted. I was like, I have to get off. I got to sleep for 4 days. So that didn't happen. Then the London trip, and then the pandemic, and it just kept on. We were actually going to go this last summer. We did a road trip because now I'm obsessed with road trips. By the way,
Oh, you are?
oh, completely. I'm also obsessed with America right
Oh,
now.
tell me about that. I'm interested.
Well, you just kind of always go somewhere else, right? Like you get on a plane and go to I don't know somewhere, Mexico or you know, and the forced kind of road trip that we had in 2020. I mean, I remember having discussions with. I don't even know Florida. I'm like, oh my god, Florida. I'm obsessed with Florida. Like
You
obsessed.
are? Wait,
Oh,
like what?
absolutely
Wait,
obsessed.
wait, wait. Okay, I need to know more because I went to college in Florida, so I know
Okay, where'd
Florida.
you go?
I went to the University of Florida. It's in
Which is
Gainesville.
yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Big college, right?
Yeah,
Large.
big college,
Yeah,
big, that's like the school, or, I'm
yeah.
a graduate, so of course I'm going to be like, that is the school in
No,
Florida.
but it is. Sure.
But yeah, so then I lived in Orlando for a while after I graduated, and I've
Yeah.
been to, Florida has political issues, but let's not get into that. But I've been to Florida. We're taking a road trip there actually in a couple weeks
Uh,
again. But we did a road trip. We drove all the way down during
so
the
you drove
pandemic.
from New York down to Florida? Yeah, great trip, huh?
It was not bad. We were driving in February, and we're like, let's just do it. I didn't really want to fly at that point, so we drove all the way down to like the Palm Beach area,
Right.
and
Okay.
it was easy, and it was really good to be there. So, but never mind me. So, tell me more about what you're obsessed with about Florida. Like, what do you like? What do you and where do you go?
I'm obsessed with all. and I haven't seen all of it yet, right? But so the Atlantic coast, you know, once you get below, what is it? Probably like, is it is it Tampa on that side, or is it no?
No.
Tampa's on the other side, right? So whatever's on the so like maybe 2 hours above Stewart or something, it gets that tropical zone.
Yeah.
Um, you know, that whole coastline is just, I mean, that whole coastline, by the way, from Canada down is spectacular.
Definitely.
You know, going through Maryland or Delaware, going through Virginia, going through the Carolinas, going through Georgia. I mean, those Outer Bank things and all that stuff is just really spectacular.
Yeah.
This
I mean,
last
that's
summer,
the beach to me. That's what I think of because I grew up here on the East
yeah,
Coast. So to me, it's like that Atlantic and with those beaches, that's
yeah,
normal to me. Like when I think about California beaches, they're beautiful, but like it's not at
yeah.
all what I think of as the norm. But yeah, so all the way up and down the coast.
So
So
that
when you
and that
get
whole thing, yeah, sorry,
so you get to like around a little north of Stewart, and then you
yeah.
start feeling good because it's tropical.
Well, it just gets tropical, so it's like, except for probably maybe July, August, which is just too hot.
Uh-huh.
Maybe a bit of June. You know, the rest of the time, it's just the weather is just fantastic, right? So, you know, you can, and then the water, the clarity of the water there is beautiful. And then you go up to the Gulf Coast, where I spent quite a bit of time too. Um, I kind of don't even want to talk about it because I don't want anyone else to go there
I
because
know. I
it's
feel like we
not,
have to.
there's a lot of people there already. So
I
it's not,
know.
the secret's
But
not
you know
out.
what?
Oh
There's
man.
there's one place that to me is the best, and I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it, even though we're gonna reveal it. Have you
Okay.
been to Marco Island?
No, I've heard
Really?
about it. No, I haven't. But I actually we looked at our houses to go and stay there, but we didn't end up going there.
So that I believe is maybe the southernmost place in on the Gulf Coast, right before you get to the Everglades.
Yeah. Okay.
So, or I guess it's like it's actually west of the Everglades. I'm not really sure of the geography exactly, but I really like it there. The beaches there are so beautiful and it's
Mhm.
quiet. You know, maybe after this it won't be quiet, but yeah,
No, I
it's
know. Well, um, I mean, it's, you know, now a lot of people are traveling in the U.S. anyway, and the whole place is kind of getting found out. But, and not to say you don't want to be, but the beaches that, I mean, nobody told me how spectacular the beaches are. The beautiful blue water and the beach, that kind of real
mhm.
kind of sugary white color, and the people are fun, and you know, it's just, I'm just, yeah.
Okay, so do you drive down? What do you do? Like, do you get
I know. Put it this way: I know next summer that I'm going back.
okay, but summer is very hot there. It really is. It's very
On the
hot.
Gulf Coast, firstly I go there probably about May, beginning of June.
Okay.
So it's kind of hasn't got to that super hot. But if the Gulf Coast, I don't know about the Gulf Coast. Once you get like that lower part of the boot there, or whatever you want to call it, then it gets hot, right? But not because I never felt overwhelmed heat wise. Um, you know, on that Gulf Coasty part.
So I mean, I've spent some time there and I've never not been hot in the summer. I can say that. But I don't know. I haven't been everywhere in the middle of summer, but I've been in Gainesville in the middle of summer. I've been in Orlando in the middle of summer, and I've been in like that South Florida area on the East Coast in the middle of summer, and it's hot. And Key West also did that in July once. It was
Right.
hot.
Too hot. Yeah, too hot. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But maybe
I
not,
have been, yeah, that's beautiful too.
where? Key West?
Key West, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the Keys they're like of course they're
Yeah,
beautiful. It's like
yeah,
how did that even happen?
yeah,
It's so beautiful.
yeah.
So you have to keep me posted on that. So you but okay, so you're still exploring that. You're obsessed with America, so you want to go to other places too?
So Maryland, what a wonderful spot that is. Um, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia. You ever been in Blue Ridge, Georgia?
No.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Um, how's this one? Alabama.
I've never been to Alabama, ever.
We were driving, so we were going along whatever that freeway is that goes the whole way along the bottom of the Gulf Coast there. From Florida, we were heading to New Orleans and on our way to California. And then that hurricane hit New Orleans. And we did this weird thing. And I was like, we don't want to go that way. I said, let's go north. We went north, then we got hit by a tornado. Next thing you know, we went up that way, and we're kind of heading back east as opposed to heading west, right? This is all happening in, a few hours, right? And then we arrived in Selma, right?
Oh, interesting.
Is it Juneteenth? Is that what it's called? Juneteenth? Yeah, and we arrived on the Juneteenth celebration.
So it's June 19th, yeah.
Yeah, and we met a woman. I mean, we met all these people, but we met this woman who lived next to Martin Luther King when she was a young girl. We went to his parish and did the march that they did, the photo march that they did, everything, and had this really kind of extraordinary, historical tour that I just wasn't even. I mean, it was really quite overwhelming, to be honest, because it was so touching and people that were so connected to it, so kind of sad in some ways and so prophetic and beautiful in other ways.
Yeah.
And then from there went to a place a little further up north and just found this resort that we went and just had this amazing time in. And then after that went to another place in Georgia. And just everywhere we went was just, the people were just so kind of engaging and connected and grounded. I don't know, that saying, and we certainly use it a lot in Australia, that kind of call it salt of the earth kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I know it's salt of the earth, I guess, comes from a more coastal perspective, but it's an earthy kind of quality. It's kind of grounded quality to people. I mean, and the antithesis of that, you've got, New York City, right? And everybody's buzzing around doing whatever. And not to criticize New York City, because I absolutely am loving. It took me a little while, by the way, to get used to it when I first got there. I just thought that place was crazy. Crazy. I'm like, these people are nuts. I don't know how you do this. This is just absolutely nutty. I think I'm just going to have to sit in the apartment. I just won't go out ever. And then slowly I'm like, this place, New York is unreal. Yeah. The city's unreal. Restaurants, obviously, everybody knows about that. I'm not saying anything new, but I mean, also things like, upstate New York, which we get to shoot at a lot, Connecticut. And I know that's Connecticut, and it's not New York, but it feels like New York, and it's kind of a part of the mix. Connecticut seems to be here, if that makes sense. Long Island. I mean, the history, the beauty. I mean, people always talk about the Hamptons. I remember living here years ago in the 90s, and I'd come out to the Hamptons. But it was, I was younger, and it was all kind of somewhat party oriented. You had friends, you had a friend, or somebody knew, or somebody had a house, or something, whatever. And you came out, and everybody was kind of having fun and throwing parties and all that kind of stuff. And it was all during summer. And then to actually experience this place in those not so popular months, and then throughout winter, it really kind of shows you the beauty and the kind of, I guess, the organic and original draw of this place, right? Of the island itself, the whole. I mean, Long Island's huge, by the way. I never even thought, like, I'm still trying to figure out why Manhattan became Manhattan. Like, wouldn't you build that on Long Island? It doesn't quite make sense.
Well, probably because it was protected a little bit, right? Because didn't they need to protect things to have a little bit of a harbor or something? Because wouldn't Long Island be too exposed, maybe? I don't know.
Well, you know what? I've looked into a few different things, and the one that I keep going back to is Manhattan itself was built on a very specific bedrock.
Okay.
but Long Island is not. And it's a bedrock that was used as a foundation, still used as a foundation. You can go down into the bedrock in Manhattan for like 5 stories and build foundations that you can't do on Long Island.
Oh, well, there you go. That makes sense, I
Right.
guess.
And then it was accompanied with the, the fact that a lot of the wealth, and the wealth was extraordinary at that point in time. What is it? Vanderbilts and Rothschilds and blah blah blah, whatever, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there were quite a few. That's only a couple of names in the mix, but there were plenty. Started to kind of compete with each other in regards to building buildings. So the next thing you know, these buildings are just being built. They're literally being built just to outbuild the other one instead of, actually built to accommodate. Like the Empire State Building apparently was unoccupied for about 2 years.
That's so interesting. It's funny that you say that because I just was listening last night to a podcast with Anderson Cooper as the guest
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
podcast. And so he, of
Mm-hmm.
course, comes from the Vanderbilt family.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
so he was saying how a lot of a lot of these buildings that you see in New York now were actually mansions. So I
Mm,
forget who it was. I think his great 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 grandfather or something. He had a mansion that is now, I want to say Bergdorf Goodman is
mm-hmm,
actually what it is now. But that
mm-hmm,
whole building was
mm-hmm,
actually that the family's home,
mm-hmm,
which took up like a whole city block. But wait,
mm-hmm.
I want to go back. I'm going to change the subject back to what you just said about salt of the earth because I'm
I know.
interested in that.
Sorry, I'm going all over the place here. I apologize.
That's what I do too. I like it. This is the kind of talk I like. We did it last time. We're doing it this time. It's all good. So,
Okay.
um, so salt of the earth. I wanted to. So I'm wondering. So do you like to kind of just get to know and talk to people who you meet along the way in life? Do you know what I
Oh
mean? Do you
yeah,
like to?
that to me is what it's all about.
I get that from you. So like I feel like I could see you on these road trips and you're going through all these different places and do you like to just kind of get to know people and what their story
Yeah, it's
is?
everybody, and I think, I got my dad was a politician, and so he was and he was a natural politician, not a forced one. Does that make sense? Like that,
Yeah.
it suit his personality. Like he liked going. In Australia, they call it your electorate, right? So if you're the mayor of New York City, my dad liked going around the city and shaking hands and saying
Yeah.
hello, and And then my mom was just always known as like she could, you'd find her at a gala with the Queen, and then the next day you'd see her at a pub, with a truck driver next door. You know what I mean? So there was no real. It wasn't classist or it
Uh-huh.
wasn't kind of elitist or anything like that. It was this multi everything. It was all cultures, all people, and so it can be anybody from the guy you met at the front gate to the guy at the room next door to what I mean. And that's kind of those conversations are the fun ones because you get to learn about the people and you get to learn about the travels, you get to learn about the
Yeah.
areas, you get to learn about and some of these places, particularly in when we're in Georgia and Alabama, I mean, the people are just so interesting to talk to. And a
Hmm.
lot of have been there their whole lives, and then they really don't kind of leave that area at all, and if at all, maybe just kind of short periods of time.
Right. Right.
Um, but there's just and there's a calmness to it that is kind of soothing, right? Like we were talking
Yeah.
about earlier. That just kind of makes you
Right.
feel. It kind of makes you want to open up and have conversation. You know what I mean?
Right. Because it's like all about the human connection and it's all really all about people. Like everything in life is really just about people. I feel like at least I've come to realize that, or this
Mm-hmm,
is what I feel like more and more.
mm-hmm,
Everybody's so interesting. So I'm interested also in hearing everybody's stories, but I also like what you're saying of that ability to it just feels good to be interacting and getting to know people. It
mm-hmm,
just feels right. And it's
mm-hmm,
like, I don't know what that quality is, but it does seem like it's all that.
mm-hmm.
So, okay, so what about, so do people recognize you though? Like, is that kind of a barrier for you, or do you feel like they don't if you're out doing just meeting people here and there?
Some do, some don't. But I don't really care. You know what I mean? I don't really. I mean, you can tell when somebody's a little funky.
Uh huh.
You know, can tell when somebody's maybe a little too too kind of. But I mean, I don't even mind. I mean, I don't mind any of them, to be honest. I mean, you know, um, maybe I did more when I was younger or something. But I don't know. It's all part of the journey, right?
Yeah.
It's all kind of, I also like look at it as if it's kind of what I'm asking for, right? I
Okay.
mean, I didn't put myself in front of a camera and put it on TV screens all around the country for people to ignore me.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So I kind of think it's part of the thing, and as I was saying a moment ago with my dad being a politician, there's a part of that politician in being an actor for me. It's part of the, you know, um, that I kind of enjoy the thing,
Hmm.
and I'm happy that I feel blessed that they've spent
Yeah.
time watching a show or watching another show or watching a movie that I did or whatever it is. I mean,
Right.
that's
So
what
it
I'm doing.
doesn't feel, and it feels to me like you're probably the same no matter what. Like whether people recognize you and you're Julian McMahon when they're talking to you, or you're just somebody who they happen to run into who struck up a conversation with them. I feel like you would be the same way. Or is there pressure to, because you're, is there pressure to be a certain way? I feel like even if there is, I don't feel like you don't cave to that pressure at all. You know what I mean? You don't, not
I
cave
don't,
to it, but even buy into it.
I don't think so, and I don't even look at that as pressure. I look at that as kind of cool.
Mm.
What do we talk about next? What do you do? You know what I mean? I mean, that's kind of the
Yes.
thing, right? It's been an
Yeah.
interesting thing being on this show too, because playing an FBI agent, uh, and then kind of being in the mix of this kind of group of people that I work with um, in New York. It's just these kind of hardworking, um, you know, family orientated, um, kind of good people, like the
Mm.
good people. You know what I mean? Um, and well, it's just, and so then I don't feel like, I mean, it might sound naive, and I'm certainly not. I'm aware of it. I can't help but be aware of it, having lived the life that I've lived. But I kind of look at us like we're all part of the mix, right? So you're just as interesting as I am. Just, in fact, maybe even more so. I mean, there's some characters out there, man, and I love them.
That's for sure. And you're definitely
Right?
seeing them also in New York, but they're not just in New York. They're all over. There are some
They're all
interesting
over.
characters out there.
Oh
Personally,
yeah.
I love a character. I love
Oh,
them. The more interest, I just feel like so many people can be so interesting, and the more somebody is so who they are,
uh-huh.
the more fascinating they are.
Oh, it's so joyful,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Somebody is who they are, and I mean, and, whatever that is, it's just,
right.
I find it just so inspiring.
Right. So you're definitely a product of how you grew up in certain ways. And how about your mother? Was she like a politician personality, a natural politician like your father?
Um, she was more on the social side of things, and she kind of headed up a lot of charities. Um, uh, she was what we would call in Sydney a socialite.
Hmm.
But she was certainly one that was kind of looked up to or admired, or and did a lot for the community. The community of Sydney, which is where she spent most of her time, or wherever that was, even up to Queensland and probably most of Australia, to be honest. She invested a lot of her time in all of that stuff, community stuff, charity stuff. Um, and so, whilst it doesn't establish the title politician, it's political. It all is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. So, what is, let's say, reflecting back on your whole life and meeting all these different people all over your family, your parents, you've been in so many, you've lived in different places, now you're obsessed with road trips. So, like, what have you learned about people? Like, if you would summarize some kind of lesson or theory you've developed about people, what would it be?
That would probably be that I don't know anything. I've still got everything to learn. Oh gosh, that's a tough question. Well, it's interesting talking about what the two different types of atmosphere that we were just talking about now. Let's say, and you're talking about New Yorkers and then people from Alabama and Georgia and Florida and whatever else. Um, I guess it's a bit of an old adage. Don't judge a book by its cover, because
Mm-hmm.
as much as you can feel the salt of the earth type person in Georgia, and then you watch people race past you in New York City. The people in New York City are just as good. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like, like I remember the other day, it was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the place is always moving. You know what I mean? Moving, the streets are moving. There's bikes and walking people and cars and trucks, and it's just going. It's all, you know what I mean? And then something happened in the middle of one of the walkways, and a lady had fallen over,
Oh.
and she was fine, but it was fascinating, the response. Everybody stopped. Everybody. The truck
And did they,
driver,
did they help?
yeah, they all got out of their cars. Guy across the street, I went over. It was this amazing kind of moment, and I was like, "Oh, that's like it just kind of." I mean, you can feel it, because when you talk to the guy who opens the door at the thing, or you can feel them, and you can feel
Mm-hmm.
there's this thing there, but they're moving. They know that's the life, right?
Yeah.
And when something happens, I was just it was quite an extraordinary moment,
So
right?
it's
Because
like,
you kind of look at them, and if you're an Alabamian, you go, those people are too quick and too fast and
but
whatever else.
no, right, no, because
But they're really,
underneath it all, yeah, they're
yeah,
they're they're people, and right, they may be rushing, but they don't not feel or not prioritize people. I think they
no,
may look busy, but it doesn't mean. I agree. I think New Yorkers get a bad rap in terms of that. It's only because it's like it's an image everybody has, but it's not really true. That right, just like you're saying, you can
it
see
might
that.
even be more kind of astonishing, let's call it, to be able to move that quickly, and then if something happens, stop,
Mm.
take heed. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just it's um I think people are just look. I love doing what I do because I love exploring people. It's interesting on our show, because you get all these actors come in every episode. You get different group of actors,
Yeah.
and so you get different group of people, and so you get introduced to all of these people, and you get to see all these different personalities, and you get to see them. The great thing about having to go on camera is that you really get to see people. It's 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 not a walk in the park.
Uh-huh.
You come on a set, and you have to get in front of a camera with 150 people watching and they're all standing around eating the ice cream. You know what I mean? It's like, and you got to go and be the best you can for whatever period of time it is, and you really get to see these people for who they are. Because when it's the stress is there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You get to see the truth in a little bit, you know, and it's kind of this beautiful thing. And so I
Yeah.
guess to answer your question, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know, people keep amazing me, I guess.
I think also that you how you treat them is probably key to how they feel because they go on set and you're the main guy, right? And so they're probably, especially people coming in, it's not their show, they're not that comfortable, they don't know the whole deal, like you're saying, they're nervous or whatever, they're not sure, and then they come in and you can be one way or another to them. They don't know how you're going to be, but I'm sure I know how you are with them. I can feel it. You're the way that
Mm.
you're talking about right now, like that's how you are now is probably how you are then with them, and it
Mm.
probably makes a difference, and then it helps them do their thing better. That's just an assumption I'm
Mm.
going to make based
Mhm.
on what I
I
know
love,
about
and
you.
I love, and I love kind of, I love watching them shine, you know? I
Yeah.
mean, I always say, because when I say that to anybody, I always, I do come from a kind of slightly British upbringing. And so you don't ever like to, I always found it difficult to take a compliment, all that kind of stuff, right? I've had to learn that. And I think from my wife and my daughter who allowed me to kind of do that kind of thing. But I was brought up in the whole kind of very British, about, the toot your own horn kind of thing. But I do love, and I always say that I love it for my, because it makes the show better, you know what I mean? But I do actually really love watching people express themselves and watching them dig in and do good, right? I love people walking
Yeah.
away at the end of the day and go, oh, that felt good,
Yes.
right?
So I'm thinking to myself, my wheels are turning as I'm doing this. And if you weren't so busy, I would ask you to, every so often, I actually have somebody interview me on my show. And I
Yeah.
feel like you would be good at that
That
because
is,
of your interest. What?
I'll do that for sure. I'm not too
Oh,
busy. I am,
oh, really?
but
Yes, you are busy. What are you talking about?
yeah, I'll just have to come up with a few more fake doctor's appointments. That was a real doctor's appointment. I had doctor's appointment, but
Please, it took so long for us to get this talk
I
back
know,
on the
I
books.
know. But you know what? I'm so excited because it kind of happened exactly the way it was meant to. Because I'm super excited about this episode, and thank you for having me back on. By the way, I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to.
But I'll do that in a heartbeat. I would love to do that.
Really? Would you like to
Oh
sit in
yeah,
the interviewer's chair? Be the
yeah.
interviewer?
I'm not sure how good I'd be, but I would love it.
I feel like because you're interested in humanity, right? And I feel like I sense it. I know who would be good and who wouldn't. That's why I'm thinking of it. That's why the wheel started turning. So if you have time and you want to do it, let's do it. And if you don't, then let's not. It's no big
I
deal.
would do that for sure. So do I come up with the questions, or so I can kind of? Okay, great. I'd do that for sure.
And they can be any kind of questions, like whatever actually interests you. So I'll give you a little tip as an interviewer is, for me personally, I
Mm,
may have a list of questions ahead of time that I might consider, or topics that I might consider bringing up, but the best conversations and the best interviews, in my opinion, come
mm-hmm,
from listening during the interview,
mm-hmm,
and then when you find yourself interested in what the person's saying, then you follow up on that. So
mm-hmm,
that's
mm-hmm.
my approach. So like you could come up with questions, but it doesn't have to be that kind of thing where it's
Yeah,
like,
allow
okay,
it to. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I think that would be natural for you anyway.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So that I personally really like to listen to interviews like that or watch interviews
mm-hmm,
like that
mm-hmm,
much more than these just strict questions and answers.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I think it's easier
I'm
also
not very
to,
good at the strict question answer, just so you know.
oh, you're not?
Not really, because when I go on, like, those dog shows that are very kind of time
Yeah.
driven, because I ramble too much.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And I also like to finish a thought before, or I like to finish something before I move on to the other thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So even if the question was, what did you have for breakfast, and then the next question is, where are you going tomorrow? I got to finish my breakfast story before I
Yeah.
before I move on to my tomorrow story, if that makes sense.
Well,
So
That's why you're good on this show, because that's the kind of thing. On the opposite of that, I can't watch shows like that either, because to me they feel so unnatural. Like it's cringy for me to watch that a lot of times, because I know, especially the ones that are produced and like rehearsed ahead of time or whatever, like the late night shows or whatever. But
Hmm.
that's good. So because of that, you need that kind of platform where you can talk in that way. So that's why I think you'll be
Hmm.
good at this, because it is that slower
Hmm. Yes.
paced.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna leave it up to you, and then if you feel like you want to do it for sure, then you tell me when it works for you.
No, we're gonna do it for sure. February, March or something. Would that work?
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Okay. Okay,
So
cool.
let's do that. Okay.
Yeah, because let me think. Yeah, because January, January, February, kind of gotta get ready for January, February.
Who are you telling? I know it kills me,
Oh
but that's
God,
why we get in the car and drive to Florida, and I'll be doing the
yeah.
same thing in February at a certain point.
Oh my gosh. I mean, we spend 10 hours outside every day during January,
Right,
February.
right, right. So you really feel it. I forgot. You're
Yeah.
really out there.
So like last night I was shooting, it was 32 degrees.
So do they dress you like? Do they give you the things that you need to be able to do that?
Personally, nobody dresses me because nobody understands how much I need to put on to be able to cope with how, because don't I'm Australian, right? So I grew up in Sydney or Queensland, and if it go below 70, you're heading
Yeah.
north to get in more sun, right? And then same with California. In Los Angeles, if it go below 70, I start putting on thermals.
Love it.
Try-
So what do you do then? How do you dress? How do you dress warmly enough for these location shoots?
oh man, I layer like crazy. I've come up with a routine of like how, depending on the temperature. It's really been quite bizarre lately, actually, because the temperature we started out at upstate New York the other day. It was 28 degrees, started in the morning,
Brutal.
and then in the middle of the day it was 55. So you can imagine
Yeah.
how I had shed
Yeah.
the
But
shed the
that's why
layer.
layers are perfect. Layers are
Yeah,
exactly perfect for this weird
yeah.
weather.
I do layers, and you've
So,
always got to keep your feet warm. Your feet are key, right? So you got to have. I do those like UGG insole things in all my shoes, and then I do those heater things. Those heater things that you can slide into your.
the toe warmers like?
Yeah, but then the whole foot. It's the toe warmer thing, but it's a whole foot.
Oh, I think I need those. Are they
Those,
big though? Do they take up a lot of space?
no, no, no. They're so good. The only thing is you got to find a way to get them in properly so they don't kind of bunch up and feel uncomfortable. Once you've got that down, you're good.
Okay, I'm gonna look for those because my feet get freezing in the winter. That's
Oh
like the
yeah.
one thing.
Problem. When your feet are cold, the whole body gets cold.
Yeah. And then what do you do for your hands?
Hands, I just wear thick gloves, and if I get cold, I stuff those hand warmer things in the gloves.
Right, right.
But like for
And then
example,
you have
this
to hold a
I,
gun and stuff in the
I
in
just
the
oh,
show.
I use gloves. Now, not I'm not saying that's the most professional way to do it if you're the
Yeah.
FBI guy, but the difference between me and an FBI agent is, aside from the obvious, is that I'm out for, you know, 6 hours of time, then I take a half hour break, and then I'm out for another 6 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I'm out the whole time, most of the time. So it's not like you go and you get the bad guy and within an hour or whatever, you're inside somewhere. I'm out the whole time.
Right, right.
So you have to me, for me, the way that I find that it works best is you have to maintain your body warmth that whole time, right?
Yeah.
So whatever that is, that's what I try to do.
Okay, so I'm looking at the time and I have to wrap up because I
Yeah,
have another thing. I'm going to see
yeah, yeah.
Howie Mandel tonight. I've never
Are you
seen him
serious?
perform. Yeah.
Oh, I love Howie Mandel.
I have not actually seen him perform. This will be the first time, but
Is
so I
he
have
gonna
to
do
get
his did you ever, I mean, I don't know
the
if you knew,
glove, right? The glove?
did you ever see his stuff in the 90s?
I've heard him talk about it, but I don't think I've even seen it. I mean, I remember watching him on the show St. Elsewhere back in the day, in like it must have been the 80s. That wasn't his comedy,
I've
his
done
acting.
anything just because I don't want to warn you
Okay.
for any or whatever. But you got to look once you've gone and seen him and enjoy and go. But once you've done it, go look up some of the stuff that he used to
Okay.
do in the 90s because he's crazy.
Okay. I will
Crazy.
totally do that. I'm going to look
Yeah.
him up after. So, but I feel like I want to do one last thing, but you also brought up, or I actually brought it up, I guess, with the gun thing. That makes me wonder, what are your thoughts on that whole situation with the Alec Baldwin film shoot thing? Because you have a
Oh,
gun. You have a gun every episode, probably, right? You have a gun.
yeah. I mean, I mean, what a horrible thing to happen in to anybody and everybody, and particularly those involved. But it rippled through the whole industry and those kind
Yeah.
of things. You know, um, we're very diligent. We're very diligent, and most of the time we're flat. We don't have any guns that could even close to operate. Right, so there's nothing that ever comes to our set that could even remotely fire something out of it.
Oh, okay. But isn't that how it should be? Like, why isn't every set like that?
Well, look, I'm guessing sometimes, particularly if you're doing a period piece, you can't get guns like that, or I don't know. I don't know.
But it's like Hollywood. They can make anything, I would think. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what you do, right, is you go to a old gun store and you get the old looking guns, and they're all those things are meant to be plugged.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the one thing it has done is just made us more conscious. So all of our, nothing we have everything we deal with is replica. We don't have anything that's actually realistic on our set,
Okay.
and never have. By the way, we were always very. I think that being in the wolf world and dealing with all of that stuff on such a consistent basis, they have to be so careful,
Yeah,
and we've
sure.
always been really kind of on it. And
Yeah.
now even more so.
That makes
Uh,
sense. I feel like I wish everything was like that. It seems like it should be. All right,
yeah,
so let's wrap up. Thank you for that too.
yeah.
W-
And if you don't hear from me or something, just remind me because I do get a little weird in January, February.
Okay.
My
So
brain was too cold. I
I
think
feel you.
I think I start to freeze.
Okay. I'm going to keep that in mind.